while Shimon went and won at Bathurst with what appeared to be a fair amount of ease. For many others, last week was merely about survival. And though Barber is a much more modern track, it may bring flashbacks to some drivers with its drastic elevation changes and blind crests. It'll certainly come with its own dangers as we get ready to watch Round 9 of the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Peter Mackay. Behind the scenes is our director, Ryan Bauer, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Barber Motorsports Park has gained notoriety over the last decade for hosting a popular round of IndyCar season. But the rest of the world may not yet be familiar with it. So let's head to our track guide. Welcome to Barber Motorsports Park. Located just east of Birmingham, Alabama, this is one of the newer circuits in American road racing. The track was built in 2003 by George Barber to go along with his Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum, which can be seen appropriately from Museum Corner on the track. While the main circuit is the full course, which includes 16 turns over roughly 2¼ miles, there are also two lesser used layouts called the Short A and Short B courses. The track is known for its technical layout and hugely dramatic elevation changes. In every category of racing, it carries a reputation of making overtakes difficult. That's not to say it's impossible, with most passes happening into Charlotte's Web. Named for the spider sculpture outside the hairpin, it often suckers drivers into braking too deep with a sudden drop just as you attempt to slow the car down. That's not the most challenging part of the circuit, though. Museum Corner is reminiscent of turns like the corkscrew, with its blind entry, multiple apexes, and cliff-like plunge down a hill. IndyCar and IMSA have visited many times in the past decade, while motorcycle racing is also a regular staple here. Practice and precision are usually required to be able to find a fast lap, but there's a heavy dose of bravery also needed in a number of spots. Despite the track being very wide, accidents often collect multiple cars due to the lack of visibility over crests. All in all, this place proves tough to even seasoned veterans. But with the hillsides and trees providing beautiful natural viewing spaces and an immaculate facility, it's no wonder fans keep showing up in droves to watch the racing here. Well, Peter, they may have put a little bit of ground effects on the modern IndyCar, the IR18, but I have to imagine it's not going to be anything quite like what we'll see here with the Lotus 79.
No, definitely not. Of course, this was when the technology was really first coming about with the Lotus 79 back in 1978. And I think our drivers here today in the Lotus 79 Sunday Grand Prix Series are really going to be able to use that effect to its maximum here at Barber Motorsports Park in Alabama. It's an incredible circuit, very much a hidden gem, actually, especially for those over here in Europe who maybe won't really know the circuit. But it's an amazing combination of corners, some really fast corners, and also some slower technical parts as well. And like you said, quite a lot of undulation too, and it's no wonder how it's so popular with the motorcycle racers too.
Yes, and I'll be honest, it's one of my favorites here on iRacing. But let's take a look at the championship before we get to the racing itself. Up at the top, Tomas Simon leads by 12 points, but this is before drop weeks. We have to remember that Tomas has missed 2 rounds, so that will help him out and will mean that the gap will be a little bit safer for him once they start counting those. Seppa now back by 33 points. It looks like it's becoming a 2-horse race here late in the season, but he could still get back into things. Steve Bycroft is well behind at this point. In fact, a full win's worth back from our leaders. And then Scotty Rina not having the season that he would have hoped, but some of it has been plagued by attendance problems. And of course, that's going to make it tough for him to also try and make a dent in things. But what about the team's championship, Peter?
Well, let's have a look. At the moment, it's John Player Team Lotus who are leading the way by 13 points from Scuderia Ferrari. In third is Equipe Renault Elf, followed by Marlboro Team McLaren, and finally in fifth, Williams Grand Prix Engineering.
Now, for today's event, as we mentioned, we are in round 9. This is where the drop weeks really start to come into play. And we have 35 laps today. It does not take long to get around here, so certainly going to be doing a lot of those. Now, it is an open setup series. Drivers will be able to tweak the cars in any way that they could in real life. And they have some incident limits, including a drive-through at 17 and a complete disqualification at 25. First few drivers are getting their laps in here in qualifying. Nicola Kochi actually on the pole, interestingly, but I think we're waiting for a few to take their first timed lap, including guys like Freesia, Trangrade. I see that we're waiting on them, but still impressive run from the number 3 right now as we're watching Freesia work his way around the final few corners and through the last left-hander onto the front stretch. Let's see what his first time holds.
Oh, that's such a... You feel like the side of your face is going to be pulled off there going through the final sort of swooping, almost like a carousel section. But Nicola Kochi going quicker again, a 1:11.947, over 0.6 of a second quicker than former champion Gernot Freesia. So Nico, he is flying in that Parmalat, brother.
The Italian clearly likes this track. I'm watching Steve Bycroft, who's finishing his second lap. He is the best position to try and challenge Kochi as he currently sits in P2. Let's see what his time is. It is a 12 flat, and that is not going to be enough. Oh, but Jukka Tolinen. Here comes a Finn, snatching that one away, and he goes faster by 0.2 over Kochi.
Of course, Tolinen had an absolutely heroic drive last time out at Bathurst with a very much a trimmed out setup and really loose over the mountain at Bathurst, but keeping position. But Tolinen puts in an absolutely blinding lap time. Good time as well from Martin Granberg as well, Joe. Great to see Martin back at the sharp end of the field.
Absolutely. He's been at least qualifying around the top 5s, definitely in the top 10s, but on the front row, maybe he could find himself a second win this season. As we watch Parigi cycle around, he's still yet to set a time. Oh, and Freesia just stole the pole away from Jukka Tolinen. I think Stella's got her groove back because it's been a while since we've seen Gernot up on the top spot.
Wow, that's an unbelievable lap time, eclipsing Tolinen's speed by nearly 0.3 of a second. Let's see what Alessandro Parigi can do coming into the final section now as well, using all of that ground effect aero to maximum effect. And the faster you go, the better it works. The more air is pushed under the car and sucking it into the ground. Let's get him over the line, and well, that won't count, but he'll have one more flying lap.
Now, here's an interesting note. We can't see him on track anymore because he's left, but I caught Daniel Banker after his qualifying stopping on the front stretch and practicing his race starts. I don't think I've ever seen a driver try that here in qualifying, so a little bit of a fascinating edge that Daniel might be trying to snag.
Well, the iRacing has a system that basically stops drivers from doing that in qualifying because, well, viewers of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup may have heard about brake dragging, which is a little kind of trick which can be used by drivers to warm the tyre a bit more in qualifying. Now, it's not a get. It's a bit of a grey area, isn't it, Joe? Which is classic rules in motor racing.
Exactly. And I think because he finished both of his qualifying laps, I think he was allowed to do that.
Okay.
So at least I suspect so, because he got away with doing it a couple times before he finally exited what appeared of his own power. Parigi, in the meantime, his first lap puts him at a 1:12.9, but he's not going to get a second one as he started a little too late. That'll put him into 14th in the meantime.
Oh, so you can see there, for Britt, that is a good example there of what the driver's going to have to be super careful. Today, going through turn 7, 7A and 7B, if you get up under the curves there, you can get a lot of floor damage. And of course, as we've talked about already, the floor of this car, very, very important to the aerodynamic grip with the ground effect. And if you damage it, whoa, full 360, oh, not quite.
Number 20, Armando Edwards, having trouble there on after his qualifying, taking it through turn one. Yeah, that museum corner, I suspect that's where we'll find you, Peter, once you manage to get back to the States with all the motorcycles across the way. Meanwhile, our grid is now set, so let's go through our starting order. Gernot Frische puts it on the pole. Jukka Tolinen will be P2 with Martin Granberg on the second row to the inside. Nikola Kochi briefly held the top spot, but he got bumped down to fourth in the end. Timo Karholainen will start in fifth, followed by Steve Bycroft in P6. And it's Andreas Henkel in seventh and Peter Konieczny starting eighth. Ove Trangrade will be P9, and then Michael de Turk rounds out your top 10.
Starting off from 11th will be Daniel Banker alongside Nathan Finnegan. Row 7 will be Dennis Shining and Alessandro Parigi. Row 8 will be Barry West in the Tyrrell machine, and Timothy Reed will start alongside him. Row 9 will be Pablo Suarez and Armando Edwards, and on row 10 will be Robert Simpkins and Paul Williams.
Ivan Jojo will start in 21st, and then it's Keith Turner 22nd. Steve Sarles, P23 for him. Pablo Marin in 24th will be followed by Tony Teolis, and Miguel Moreland will be on his outside in 26th. Chris Rowlands starts P27th, and it's still Muth in 28th. Swaim in 29th. Last few did not set a time. Dizdarevich, Rafa, Prinz, and Coriani. It is a pretty full field. It did not split today, so expect traffic to play a factor as the laps tick by at a little bit over a minute around here, and they will quickly catch the back of the field from what we expect. Just waiting for, looks like only our pole sitter to plop his car on there, and there it goes. So the drivers now will start to rev their engines as the lights come up here at Barber Motorsports Park. And the green flag is out for round 9 of the Sunday Grand Prix Series. Frische is off the line decently. Looks like Granberg had a good run down to the inside of Tolinen, but is not able to capitalize. Oh, a little contact between himself and Kochi. That's going to send him wide. And unfortunately, he is going to be off the track in the first few corners, falling all the way down to the back of the field. Everybody else looks to be clean.
Oh, that is an absolutely disastrous start there for Martin Granberg after such a strong qualifying to lose so many spaces. And I think we are going to see a pretty high attrition rate here. Normally here in the Lotus 79 Grand Prix Series, there is normally a split in the field. So there's two separate races, one for the top split and one for second split. But with all the drivers bunched together today, there is a much bigger spread of ability, and the guys at the front, as you quite rightly mentioned, Joe, they're going to have to be super careful when they come around for to embark on lap traffic. And of course, it's such a short lap here at Barber, so that could be happening quite quickly.
Unfortunately, we had more issues down into Charlotte's Web. Banker and Parigi got together, it looks like. So Daniel Banker, with all his practice starts, apparently also threw it away in the end, but already completing lap 1. Frische with a good 1.5 second gap over Tolinen, but how about this? A battle for second. Kochi took a peek on Jukka Tolinen, then decided better of it down into turn 1.
Yeah, you can see there, Nico Kochi. You've got to be careful not following too closely in these cars. Sometimes you do get a little bit of dirty air from the car in front. Up we go towards the hairpin at turn 5. Quite a tricky hairpin. It sort of double apexes a little bit, and then you've got to try and get the car straightened up and then back on the power as hard as you can, running all the way down here to turn 7, 7A and 7B, and you can see left, right, and really trying to flick the car back and forth and then back up the hill again. It's this is what racetracks should always look like, Joe, cut into the natural topography of the land.
I think we had a problem with Thomas Delmuth as well just now. Don't need to go to it. Self-spin coming out of Charlotte's Web. And that's going to send him down the order as this battle for second place. We're looking now at 16th, rather, with Miguel, or rather with Granberg trying to work his way back up the field.
Good start from Barry West. Barry West up to 10th from 15th on the grid. So good start for the man in the Elf Tyrrell machine, but fastest lap of the race for Gernot Fritzsche, 1:12.987. Now, watch out for those lap times. They will tumble throughout the race. Of course, these Lotus 79s are powered by the Ford Cosworth DFV V8 engine, and they burn fuel at an extraordinary rate. So the cars just get lighter and lighter and lighter over the whole race. And yes, that's going to make an effect. You'll see the lap times really tumble throughout the race, and the drivers just putting in ever quicker lap times.
Quite a train behind Barry West here. That's Reed, Suarez, Finnegan, Edwards, and I guess you could count Granberg in there along with Williams and Herner. So number of drivers plugged up behind the number 15 as they come to the back half of the course along the low side of things. It's going to plunge through 12 and 13. Oh, and we have more issues. Yes, multiple cars. Coriani and Banker off track again for the number 17. Oh. There's the 27 as well. You see trying to get it turned around.
Well, yes, the dear me, there's a lot of damage there to the rear of Banker's machine. So let's see what happens. Sorry, Coriani's machine, my apologies. So does he get hit from behind? Oh no, he does the... Oh, that's strange.
That's Banker, yes. Getting hit from behind, it looks like.
And then they get, so it hits Banker from behind and then twirls around and gets some damage at the back for good measure. So I think we're going to see this field thin out quite quickly, Joe, because it's not an easy... Although it's quite a wide racetrack, it's not an easy racetrack to run consistently on.
Certainly not. It's proving challenging for the drivers today as we watch Fritzsche up in front. We then switch back here to the likes of Hankel being chased by Trangerade and De Turk. This is for P5 on screen, down and through the chicanes on the backside of the course. Also very tough to try and overtake. So you see them separated here by a few car lengths. Don't be surprised if they stay this way until one of them makes an error.
Yeah, indeed, yes. That's where the drivers will have to just try and make their moves by hassling the car in front to make an error. That's the good thing with it being a little bit wider here at Barber. Then if that mistake is made, there is room to get by. Gernot Fritzsche just slashes 9/10 of a second off his previous best. Absolutely extraordinary. Now, look at this car here, the number 32 of Nathan Finnegan. I have to say, I like that. Now, that paint scheme, Joe, that reminds me of the paint scheme that they put on TVRs in the late 90s.
It makes me think of the old color-changing Hot Wheels myself, honestly. But
the wheels had better build quality than the TVR.
Yeah, honestly. As up in front of him, a big slide from Timothy Reed opens the door for Suarez in front. As we watch from Granberg behind as they plunge down into Museum Corner. Suarez a little bit offline in a unfortunate checkup because in Finnegan's wake, Edwards finding himself not able to stay in line. He'll have to get out of it, and that costs him time. Martin Granberg, in the meantime, is going to try and go side by side as he looks around the outside of turn 12. A brave move for the number 4 to snag that one.
Now, I tell you what, we've got to give Nathan Finnegan a huge amount of credit here. Running in 13th in a super competitive field, he has an iRating of 100. That is it. And bearing in mind that Gernot Fritzsche, who is our number 1 seed leading this race, has an iRating of 8,000. So absolutely extraordinary. So Nathan, perhaps quite new to the iRacing service, but clearly knows how to wheel a race car. Brilliant stuff.
Now, as we take a look at Steve Bycroft here, who's fallen down the order from the start and is trying to work his way back up. He's going to go by Dennis Schoening out of Charlotte's Web. That'll net him 8th place. Not sure what happened early on, as so much was going on. We didn't catch why Bycroft went down from 6th to 9th briefly. But regardless, next on his list is going to be Michael De Turk.
Yeah, Michael De Turk in the Villiger Kiel cigars machine, so you'll never be short of something to celebrate with if he gets into victory lane. Well, the New Yorker running the number 9 on that car today, signifying him as the 9th highest ranked seat in this race. But it's going to be a busy race, I think, Joe, because normally we don't see tyre wear being too much of an issue here in the Lotus 79 series, but it's such a short and twisty circuit like we have here at Barber. I wonder if maybe the tyres will get a bit past their best as we approach the final 5 laps.
I suspect so. It's got a lot of corners that are going to test them as we're watching Karjalainen down into turn 1 behind Parigi, another driver that's out of position because of getting caught up in incidents at the start of the race. Just ahead of him in the dark colored car, that's Robert Simpkins. Oh, but it's a good run here from Karjalainen. He's going to look to the inside, but they're both deep on the brakes, gaining on the leader of this trio, so all will stay in position. But Parigi could have another go coming down to Museum Corner. Passes are possible, but tricky. He goes wide into the first apex, and a big catch there from Karjalainen, who almost swaps ends.
Dear me, yeah, that is a big moment. And when these cars let go, when they twitch like that, you've got to be super quick to catch it. And a lot of the time you can't. You see a little bit of damage there on the number 10 car of Parigi, so that can be making it easy. He has a big look up the inside, and oh, do they make contact? I think they just about avoided it, but Parigi taking the big. Whoa, dear me, erratic.
Well, he is on top of that wheel, and as he comes down to turn 1, that's hard to make passes because that is a swift corner, and he discovers just how hard as he gets chopped off by Simpkins. What a fierce battle here for the midfield positions. And here we go again because Timo is looking very strong, coming out over the crest. Whoa! With a late dive down from Parigi into the corner, and it all goes south as unfortunately he's going to lose the car, and Simpkins somehow retains this 18th spot.
Well, I think I've got more chance of fitting in my high school kilt than fitting through the gaps that Parigi's trying to get through right now. Goodness me, certainly making similar sound effects, the kind of squeezing through. Goodness, this is certainly exciting racing, but you've got to imagine that Karjalainen, he's probably not particularly chuffed about that because he has paid the price handsomely for that. Whoa, jeepers creepers.
And that might give the spot up. Indeed, down to the inside goes Timo, and that one will make it stick. There's the error we were talking about. Parigi just going way off the track. He's actually quite lucky. There's not a lot of runoff off of 13.
Whew, dear me. Well, the inside of that Lotus 79 underneath Alessandro Parigi's car is going to be pretty beaten up. He's already got a bit of front wing damage. Now, Parigi is one of our Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends drivers, which we broadcast here on the Global SimRacing Channel every Saturday morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. And my goodness me, you don't run successfully in that circuit like Parigi does without being smooth. But today, this has been a bit of a rush of blood to the head for Parigi today.
Really has. Now let's head back up to second because Coach is still working on the fin. He doesn't seem too happy about being pipped to a better qualifying, as he's been hassling him for a number of laps at this point, but hasn't been able to try and effect a pass, but that might change. He gets within a couple car lengths around the Alabama roller coaster.
Well, we know from last week at Bathurst that Tolinen can defend with the best of them. He's one of the toughest guys to pass in this series, and Nico Kochi will know that. He watches the broadcast back. He will have seen Tolinen's performance, and well, all this is playing into the hands of Gernot Fritzsche, who has a bit of a pace advantage, Joe, but also he's the man in clean air.
So we switch back to Trangarade. He's been battling with Hankel. This is for 6th position. Had a look down into Charlotte's Web, but it didn't stick. And as they work their way along the chicanes around the back half of the course, they're coming up to lap traffic soon. Thomas Delmuth is in front of him. Our leaders are already starting to overtake the slow cars.
Yeah, this is where we could see that. I think that could be the critical deciding factor to this race, Joe. There's a lot of the drivers in this particular race. A lot of them race regularly every week here in the Lotus 79 series, but there are a lot of wild cards. There are a lot of unknowns racing in this particular event. So I suspect that I hope not, but there may well be, is certainly a danger that the drivers will have to be careful of when cutting their way through the field.
This is the battle for 9th place on screen. Reed starting to peel away from Weston Suarez as well as Granberg. Remember, Granberg qualified this thing on the 2nd row. The fact that he is back in 12th means that we expect some fireworks here. Let's see what he can do on a track that is notoriously difficult to pass at. Nothing this time into Charlotte's Web, unfortunately for him. But he keeps stalking that number 16 as they head towards Museum Corner.
So down they come into the kind of almost sort of miniature roller coaster S's past the famous motorcycle museum, the largest collection of motorcycles anywhere in the world, accumulated by George Barber, who created the circuit here. And did you know, Joe, that George Barber actually used to race cars as well? He used to race, in my view, one of the most beautiful cars ever made, the Porsche 904, with a certain Peter Gregg.
Ah. Of course you would know that. As they come around to the final bit of the course, we jump back to Hankel, who is still dealing with a threatening Ove Trangere, the Scandinavian, looking on either side. A defensive line at first, then back to the racing line for Andreas. Into Charlotte's Web, turns in early, still trying to cover off that Honda liveried Lotus. And, oh, we had a problem with Finnegan. It looks like the 32, unfortunately, not going to get quite as good of an I rating haul as we anticipated, as he was off track in turn 1.
Yeah, so Finnegan dropping down the order quite considerably. Of course, the pace is so hot in this particular series that if you do make the slightest error, you really are severely punished for it. But we're heading towards half distance now. We're not too far away from it. Here at Barber Motorsports Park, and it's just brilliant getting some onboard shots here of this great circuit. Whoa, bit of a moment there in front, but you can tell it was designed by people who love driving and love racing, because none other than Dan Gurney and John Surtees were both consulted on the circuit's design. Good men to consult when it comes to race courses. Meanwhile, you saw a big slide once again from Tolinen. I think he's got that car trimmed out yet again, but is still handling it fantastically well, managing to hold off Nicola Kochi. And we've still got more than half of this race yet to go. Once again, the car looking all out of sorts down through Museum Corner. Chris Rowland's up ahead of them. Will he play a factor? Another of our lap cars quickly approaching. Yeah, brilliant shot there, riding on the top of the Cosworth DFE engine cover of Tolinen's machine, and that's not an engine, Joe. That's an organ. That's an organ which we worship. The sweet music that comes out the back of that car. Down and out of the second carousel on the track, onto the front stretch. This is where Tolinen will shine a little bit. Something of a straightaway. Not many of them around here as he peels away from Kochi, but this is where Kochi starts to close back in. These long sweeping corners. Look at him get right up to the gearbox. And then as they come up and over the crest, can he get close enough? Can he get the slipstream? No, not quite. The Italian continues to be frustrated by Yuka as they plunge around this hilly course here in Alabama. Yeah, and I have to say, it's wonderful to see Tolinen. If you look at his helmet, he's got an Angry Birds helmet on as well, and it's got the 2 angry eyes on the top. There you go. That's you think that? I wonder what's up with the driver's face like when they're going down the carousel section there. It's brilliant to see. I love the Renault helmet strip as well. That's very very accurate as well. Very cool indeed. But this is excellent racecraft again from Jukka Tolinen. So he's obviously comfortable enough with the car being a little bit looser underneath him, and you can see his Kochi just got so much more corner speed, but of course on the straight he just cannot get close enough to Tolinen's car. So Tolinen obviously putting in the practice during the week to be able to put up with a loose car, knowing that it's going to really help him to defend. And I get the sense that Kochi remembers from last week and knows that he has to try and do it in the corners here, because he's not going to get him on the straightaways, as once again he pulls the toe down towards Charlotte Webb, but is not quite close enough. Still shows his nose, tries to see if he can shake Yuka off the racing line.
As we go back to Andreas Henkel, another similar situation here with Trangerade close behind. And here comes Steve Bycroft into the mix. And I think they're catching up to Peter Konieczny in fourth. So this is going from a two-car fight to soon being doubled in size.
Yeah, it looks like they're all going to accordion back together again, it would appear. And really good run from Ove Trangerade here. Of course, Ove, one of our regular front runners in the Grand Prix Legends series, which we had at Okayama yesterday here on the Global SimRacing Channel. It was a strong run from Ove, but unfortunately a late crash with a back marker taking him out of contention, but certainly making amends here, running in the just on the fringes of the top 5. And have to say, I love this car of Henkel and the 13 car, British Air Ferries, which I presume was the very brief era here in the UK where there was a bit of a passion for hovercrafts.
I think you're right on that one, as Henkel has a very close gap back to Trangerade this time. Here we go. What's the Norwegian got on him? He could try and stick it in down into the Charlotte's Web hairpin, but he decides not to. Tries to square it off instead. Sees if he can get the run out, but he cannot. So Ove will stay behind, watching behind in the popcorn position. Bycroft has now definitely caught them. And I almost wonder if Ove's got to be careful on what kind of move he makes.
Yeah, he will need to be very, very careful to make that move considered, because if any contact with these cars, they tangle together and they're pretty fragile as well. So you don't want to risk that as well. But Trangerade appears to have a bit of pace, but Bycroft will be watching all this thinking, this is good, this is allowing me to just recover that little bit. I like also how Henkel's car, there's also a little bit of sponsorship for some early 80s PPE equipment.
Got to keep it safe as the Durex car takes it around turns 1, 2, and 3. An update on Martin Grandberg on his efforts to try and regain some positions. Unfortunately, he went off in Charlotte's Web and has fallen back down to 13th again. Definitely a little bit of damage on the rear wing of that number 4. You can see it just bent up there. So I wonder if that's causing a little bit of the hassle that he's experiencing trying to keep it on the track.
Yeah, that certainly won't be helping. Of course, the rear downforce in these cars so important, particularly here at Barber on some of the really quick corners. So that'll be making that race car pretty uncomfortable to drive for Martin Grandberg. And he's got to add to the frustration after finally getting a good qualifying position, getting back to the front. Of course, early championship leader, don't forget, Joe.
As we head back to that battle for second place, Nicholas very close now, coming down the front stretch, trying to see if he can make that Angry Bird nervous. Interesting note about that, why he's got Angry Birds. Did you know that that is a Finnish company, actually, started by a Finnish game company? That's why Jukka is sporting that as he gets held up a little bit. And this could be the time that Kochi's looking for, tries to get an overlap, but it doesn't quite stick. And also another note about that, they actually paid homage, one of the original levels, to Kiki Rosberg, the Angry Birds company, the Angry Birds game.
Wow, I did not know that. I did used to have it on one of my old mobile phones, actually. It's highly addictive and very enjoyable, actually. I must download it again. I must start getting back into my Angry Birds.
If you look on one of the levels, they have a Formula One car that says 1982 underneath it and a pig with a mustache. So
I love that. I love that detail. Wow!
Oh, and he still goes for the pass! Who do you know that will lose control of the car and still say, oh, I'm sending it anyways, here we go.
Wow, well, let's try and get a replay again.
Yeah, I think we need an onboard here. Glad we caught that second little incident. This is amazing stuff. Kochi, I have to say, has that Italian fervor that has extreme confidence in himself.
Well, Tolanen has one of his own there as well. Oh,
yeah, that's why.
And then, so, it recovers. Interesting. I see. So they're both having enormous moments. Now, You've got to love that, Joe, because although, some people might be thinking, okay, they haven't overtaken each other, oh dear, this isn't very good. Well, you don't actually necessarily need overtaking to have a really close battle, and these guys are clearly right over the ragged edge of what they're even close to comfortable with, and they're both having massive moments every lap, so they're both playing for keeps, it would appear.
Oh my goodness, and this group is coming up on a lot of lap traffic, and that means Peter Konieczny in front of him, he actually was just having a hell of a time trying to overtake these cars that are in their own fight for position, even though they're a lap down. And as you can see, this is checking him up in a big way as Marin's trying to get out of their way. Someone even off course as they plunge through. Hankel catches right up to the back of Konieczny. Nobody changes positions somehow in that melee, and they're all by.
Somehow. That was busy getting through there. It's that reminds me of Outrun 2 on the on the Xbox many years ago. It was actually an arcade game as well. We had to weave in between traffic. That was certainly what that reminded me of. So this is a great battle for the top 5 here, with Henkel still hanging on in that orange car, with Ovi Trengerade in the beautifully minimalist Honda Japan livery.
He's still sticking with them as they go on by Cristiano, finally managing to get some clear air in front of them, and still they all stay in the same positions. Peter has 4th place, Hankel in P5, Trengerade in 6th, and Bycroft in P7 as they come across Delmuth on top of it. Oh, and Delmuth is going to get into the grass, almost running into the side of Hankel, who somehow averts disaster.
Oh, well, Delmuth already had a bit of rear bodywork damage to the wing, so maybe just struggling a little bit there as well. And of course, when the fast guys appear in the mirrors, it can be a scary prospect. You can see here,
I think Andreas really does have some protection on that car. I mean, to be able to avoid that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, there you go. There's a great advert for staying safe.
Oh, in the meantime, I think Hankel might have to finally give up the spot because Trenkerade's going to get an overlap, but he's on the outside. And it looks like he's not able to make it happen as we watch the replay one more time from on board. The battle is still ongoing. If we come back to the action here, and Andreas is almost sideways coming down through, and woof, my goodness. Hard move there for Ove Trengerade, finally making it stick. We might have to go back and watch this one again. Took him a couple corners because Ove had to really fight.
Yeah, he did. It's showing just how much you have to do to set up a move here at Barber as Gernot Fritsch continues his incredible pace at the front, a 112.0. So here we go then, coming out of Charlotte's Web down towards Museum Corner, and Trengerade just gets a much better drive, gets the power down. Of course, these cars have an incredible amount of horsepower, and not an awful lot of grip, as Henkel shows us there, does well to hang on to it, and that sort of checked Bycroft up a little bit as well, and Trengerade is through, but it did require a mistake from Henkel for Trengerade to finally get it sealed up.
Yeah, unfortunately, Andreas found his rubber a little slippery at that point. Meanwhile, Bycroft now threatening to take 6th place away from Andreas as he follows in line.
Yep, this is now what can Bycroft do. He shows himself in the mirror trying to put some pressure onto Henkel to try and get him to make that same mistake, but don't know if it'll come easy. Trengerade not dropping them yet, but starting just to build a little slither of a margin in that number 5 car. And for me, this has been drive of the season for Ovi Trengerade in this series, Joe. Really, really impressive.
Yeah, up 4 spots now to P5. Since this has died down slightly, let's head the cameras over to our leader. There is our P1, and Gernot Fritsch currently 8 seconds ahead of Jukka Tolvanen. He's had control of this one, and this will be win number 2 if he can bring this home. Very valuable without Tomasz Simon here today. Another drop week, unfortunately, for our championship leader, but fortunate for Gernot, who is capitalizing on this with both hands.
Yeah, he certainly is, and Gernot, a former champion of this series, and this series has this season has definitely been a return to the Gernot that we know. Last series a wee bit, a little bit, just maybe not at his 100% best, but this is vintage Gernot for each of today.
So as the number 2 of Steve Bycroft and the number 13 of Hankel. Whoa, and there's a mistake from Hankel. He is off. Is he going to hit the barrier? Oh, he's into it. Clips the front wing a little bit. Tries to get it turned around and positioned to where he can get going once again. Oh, but he's going to get hit if we stay on the replay here. Coriani, one of our lap cars, finds him over the blind crest. I wondered about this move as he tries to pull across the track here. Let's stay with it. Yeah, that wasn't the wisest of things.
Quite unusual to see a front runner do that, to be quite honest, Joe.
Yeah, I would have expected a little bit more of patience, especially after he had such a hard hit. He's not going to have much pace after this. Meanwhile, back to the battle for fifth rather, between Trangerade and Bycroft, now that we've lost touch with Hankel. So 2 positions are up for grabs for Bycroft. One handed to him on a silver platter after Andreas wrecks out. Another one might be a little bit harder going because Ove looks like he is really on the mark today, really on a charge.
So we're looking back at Martin Granberg in the number 4 car, up to 11th, and woof. Yeah, I tell you what, Joe, he seems to be fighting quite a lot of understeer in this car. It seemed like he's turning in there and the car's not wanting to follow it. Let's see through the final carousel if it's the same feeling. Yeah, it just seems to be fighting a little bit of understeer in the slower speed stuff at least. Maybe carrying a little bit of front wing damage, also a little bit on the rear too.
And I don't think being stuck in this traffic is helping him either. That's Pablo Suarez. That is for position in front of him, though they just lapped Pablo Marin. And there it is again. Look at that car just sliding across the track, not wanting to give him the grip that he desires. And he falls back yet again up and over the crest of 4. Michael de Turk is also within range, but tantalizingly out of reach. As we hop on board here with Michael, looking back at the likes of Suarez and Granberg.
Yeah, that must be a pretty uncomfortable drive for Granberg with that damage. That car looked a little bit of a handful, or just a car that just doesn't want to do what you need it to do, which is deeply frustrating and really saps the confidence out as well. So 10 laps to go here at Barber, so that will go by in a flash, and Gernot Fritzsche dominating this motor race by 9 seconds, a margin we don't often see. But riding back on board with Alessandro Parigi, who, dearie me, they've got a car going very, very slow in front there, and not much space to get out the way. But Parigi on the back of Barry West, who's had a great run for Tyrrell today.
Yeah, up to 12th position. Parigi is actually back to about where he started this race, sitting in 13th after qualifying 14th. So he's had a net gain despite having a lot of adventures out there. Kind of impressive, to be honest, as a defense down into Charlotte's Web from Barry West shows he doesn't feel totally safe with the Italian behind him.
Look at that lap time from Gernot Fritzsche. Now the fuel's coming off. Now he's having some fun. 111.7. That's into kind of qualifying realms of pace. So even after 25 laps of Barber Motorsports Park, Gernot's still got a bit of life in the tyre and really driven a beautifully controlled race. But still, Jukka Tolinen still holding off Nico Kochi. Nico Kochi has tried the entire race to get past Tolinen, and he has not been able to do it.
Still got to do it for 9 more laps. Oh, that battle with Parigi and West has gone to the dogs as Paul Williams is overtaking both of them. Alessandro getting into the side of Barry into the final corner. Let's get a replay of this one. Unfortunately, I suspect that Parigi got a little too eager on trying to make that overtake.
Well, we have seen Parigi have a bit of an erratic day so far. So let's see what happens coming down into the... Now, I keep losing my bearings here. We're heading round into the final part of the lap. Yep. Parigi trying to, fit a gap that's not really there, and gives Barry a nudge. But thankfully, relatively, could have been a heck of a lot worse. It's quite a fast part of the circuit. So actually, both did well not to incur any more damage than they did. But riding back on board with Jukka Tolonen and looking back to Nico Kochi and Tolonen, well, certainly we always have a bit of a hard charger award, but he's been the hard blocker award so far over the last couple of weeks.
And let's keep the cameras here, but credit to Paul Williams for sizing up that situation and sneaking through the inside to get those two spots and not get caught up in it. Out of Museum Corner, Nicola Kochi still hot on the heels of Jukka Tolonen. Jukka just cool as you'd like, and you'd kind of expect from a Finn, I think, at this point, from the reputation that they have gained, managing to keep that car pointed forward and keep the mistakes minimized to prevent the number 3 from managing to overtake, looking for the best exit he can, because he knows he's not going to be able to catch him in a straight line. And he stays with him down the front stretch, but doesn't get the opportunity into the first corner. Now down to 7 laps to go for this second place fight that has been stuck like this for pretty much the entire race.
It has, and it's wonderful to watch Jukka Tolonen in this yellow number 6 Renault Elf car, because he just knows exactly where his strengths and weaknesses are and just places his car so well on the circuit that Nico Kochi has nothing he can do. He just knows exactly where he needs to be to where he knows where Kochi is stronger, and he makes sure that he is parked in the way. Really, really clever racing indeed, but it must be, God, Kochi must be chewing the top of the steering wheel by now after looking at the back of Tolanen's car all race long.
But doesn't sound like a meal the Italian would like, as we jump back to Trangarade in a similar situation. No, actually, Bycroft, did he just get by? Wow. And this happened on the front stretch. So relatively recently, I think Trangarade made a mistake out of the final corner, opened the door, and Steve was not going to ask twice for that one. Managed to ease into the inside into turn 1. Nicely done by the number 2.
Yeah, that's not a usual place where you pick up a pass. So maybe a little mistake for Trangarade on power. Maybe got a little bit of a moment coming out of the final corner, or maybe even some of the drivers use an H-pattern shifter in their simulator rig, so you sometimes maybe miss a shift perhaps. But look at Parigi and Barry West. This battle continues to carry on, and Parigi, great switchback. Now that was impressive. That was really quick thinking from Parigi. Barry gave him a tiny gap, and Parigi just shot through it like a dashing down a rabbit hole.
And it goes away.
Oh dear.
Well, it was a brilliant move. And then another incident. How many lives has Parigi got? At some point, I almost wonder if he'll run afoul of the drive-through penalty, and I think he's going to slow it down as we watch the incident one more time. Yes, Parigi has taken a tow. I think the car has seen too much damage after this point, and he has to call it a day. Meanwhile, Spick and Span up at the front of the fields. Gernot Frischa leading by a monstrous 18 seconds over Tolonen. His pace has just been out of this world.
That's the only way to describe it. We don't normally see these kind of gaps at any circuit here in the Lotus 79 Grand Prix Series, and it has been a while since Gernot's been fighting for wins on a regular basis in previous seasons, but this has been very much a return to form, and this win puts him right in the championship fight. And of course, we're really coming into the business end of the season. We just have 4 rounds to go after this one, So Gernot Fritsch, all of a sudden, he has emerged as a proper bona fide championship contender.
As we watch this, a quick shout to our hard chargers today. Paul Williams, I think, has the most. Actually, he's tied with Timothy Reed. It looks 8 positions up, both of them, Williams and Reed, from their qualifying spots. And then a few others up 7 positions. Pablo Suarez among them. And I believe Keith Herner as well. Actually, Herner, I think, up 8 spots too.
Indeed, yes. It's interesting to see that at the moment we only have 14 cars on the lead lap, and we will have quite a few less by the time we finish. Because sorry, I think Tolanen just finally got overtaken, but he might try and get it back as Kochi is side by side down into Charlotte's Web. They nearly bang wheels through the corner. Kochi, who is trying to keep with it, keep a nose in up towards Museum Corner. Can he manage to finish this overtake? Are they going to come together? He almost loses the car. Almost looked like they were interlocking wheels and still not making contact. But how about that as Tolanen somehow fends him off yet again? Wow, absolutely incredible racing from both of those guys. You could not get any closer without having a big wreck. They are playing for keeps. And Kochi is really starting to take a few more chances now. He's had enough. There's just a couple of laps to go. And that closes up so quick. Goodness me. And Tolanen just knows what his car can do and what he can do with it. And Kochi just able to thwart every move from Kochi. He must have got a run out of the opening sector down towards Charlotte's Web. But Tolanen just got that little bit more straight line speed and was able to counter-attack into the Charlotte's Web hairpin. And wow, what fantastic motor racing.
Kochi slid big time through the Alabama roller coaster, so that cost him some time. Instead, we've switched back to Trangarade, trying to fight back on Bycrofts. That car behind them is not for position. That's Rafa, who is a lap down from them. As they come out of the hairpin, back up over the crest, we hop on board the helmet cam of Trangarade as he follows in the tire tracks of Steve. And he's got very few laps to try and execute this pass, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is, and as we've seen it, the moves are so hard fought here at Barber Motorsports Park, but regardless of how this battle finishes between Trangarade and Bycroft, Trangarade will be very, I'm sure, buoyed by this great performance here today in the Lotus 79. We know he's a proper front runner with the Lotus 49 in the Grand Prix Legend Series on Saturdays, but the 79, it's crazy, isn't it, Joe? There's only 11 years separating these cars, but they just couldn't be any more different. The only thing is, I guess, is the same engine.
Really? And same creator as another good run from Kochi doesn't produce fruit, unfortunately. Once again, Tolanen slipping up through the Alabama roller coaster allowed the red number 3 to get right up on him. Oh, look at how close he's trying to get. We're down to 2 to go. In fact, they're going to see the white flag next time by for these two drivers as yet more lap traffic tries to stay out of the way. Frisha taking the white flag right now. Coming into turns 12 and 13. Can Kochi finally manage to get something stick? He's actually managed to get overlap a couple times at this point, but still, somehow, Tolanen is keeping that yellow Renault in front of the number 3.
Oh, look at that moment there for Kochi. Huge, huge snap of oversteer, and he catches it. He seems to catch it every time, and they are absolutely playing for keeps here in Tolanen. He's got a really good buffer here, but look at it, just as every fast corner, it just erodes and then goes back again along the straights. It's just extraordinary change. I wonder if there'll be a bit of a petition for Tolanen to reveal his setup, because he's just got a dragster in that thing.
I mean, even if he reveals it, you got to be able to wheel it, and I don't know many drivers are going to be able to do that in this series, as great as they are. This man, though, has been wheeling it all day long. Gernot Frisha takes it around the final 2 turns with a 23-second lead over everybody else. He stops it for his second win of the season. Gernot Frische, your victor here today. Behind them, coming through the final few corners, Tolinen just has to keep it together for the last few turns. Oh, but he spins up the wheels coming into 14. Is this what Kochi needs? He manages to get an overlap. He's going to have the inside off the corner. It's going to be a drag race to the line for second. Wheel spin costs him, and Kochi watches it slip through his fingers.
Oh, dear me. Well, mate, but we know that Nico Kochi is he's always in good spirits and always very friendly when he comes in for interview, but dear me.
Oh no, Shanning was on his lid. If we get a quick replay, Dennis Shanning, who is looking at a top 10, throws it away in the end. He was trying to lap Rafa and had a bizarre incident. I think, does he get hit by, yeah, it's Del Muth who winds up running into him here. So he's trying to lap a car, and oh no, he clips the grass on the way in, tries to hold it through on the way through, and then winds up sideways. Oh, and just gets a wrong bounce.
Oh dear, it's maybe need to work on those tire pressures to get a better bounce when you're tumbling around. My goodness me, what a race!
Oh, that was one of my favorites of the season. But we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12-Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Barber Motorsports Park. At the front, a 23-second lead would make it seem like this was a boring one, but Gernot Frische was the only one that probably had a boring race today, and I'm sure he's still glad for that as he took victory, because Jukka Tolinen and Nikola Kochi behind them finished second and third, split by less than a tenth of a second. And my goodness, what a fight they had all race long. Jukka playing defense and a fantastic. Peter Konietzki took fourth behind them, with Steve Bycroft managing to overtake Ove Trangerade. They also had a good fight that we checked in on here and there throughout today's event, with Timothy Reed finishing at seventh behind them, jumping up 9 positions. Great job to him. Michael de Turk wound up in eighth, and Martin Grandberg going on a reverse trajectory, starting in third, getting punted off in the first couple corners and only salvaging a 9th place. Pablo Suarez up 7 spots to finish 10th.
Finishing in 11th was Paul Williams, with Dennis Shanning in 12th, Keith Herner in 13th, Barry West 14th, and Robert Simpkins rounding out the top 15. Ivan Giorgio was 16th, followed by Nathan Finnegan, Steve Charles, Pablo Marin, and Cristiano Corani.
Then you get down to 21st, and it is Chris Rollins with Fabrizio Raffa in at 22nd. Tony Teolis was 23rd, and Thomas Delmuth 24th. From there on down, you get to DNF's Parigi, Hankel, Prins, Moreland, Dizdarevich, Karhalainen, Edwards, and Swaim, rounding out our 32-car field here today. At the top of that field, at the end of it all, was Gernot Frische, who takes a perfect score today with pole and fastest lap. Gernot, congratulations. It looked easy from our perspective, but this track is quite challenging, as we saw from a number of drivers. What did it feel like in the cockpit?
Hi, Joe. Yeah, I felt very confident today because I had a good rhythm right from the start. I knew my pace was quite good, and some of the super fast guys were missing, so that made it a little bit easier. The other thing that made it easier was that Nicola was stuck behind Yuka. Obviously, they had a really good fight, but it was good for me because I could pull away at the front.
This will close things in, but we still need to take into account the drop weeks for the Sunday Grand Prix series. So with Shimon missing his third of the season, he's had the pace of the field. I mean, that's got to cause, I imagine, some mixed feelings for the final rounds.
Yeah, for sure. He hasn't got any slower, so he'll be back with his full power. And yeah, I know this has been a little bit of an easier week for me. The next weeks will be tough again, for sure.
Well, next week specifically, we're heading off to Watkins Glen, which is almost a polar opposite to here, with a lot of fast sweeping corners and plenty of chances to try and overtake. Do you feel like you could maybe get a setup to at least hold on to the back of Shimon?
Not so sure. Usually the low downforce tracks are not where I really can shine. So Barber is not a track that I like, but for sure a track that likes me. Watkins Glen is the complete opposite. So without any downforce there, things will be much tougher for me, for sure.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for you, and congratulations on win number 2 this season.
Thanks, guys. See you next week. Huge congrats to Yuka and Nicola for great fight, great podium, and thanks to all the lapped cars. They have done a brilliant job here. It's not easy.
Very gracious there from Gernot Frische. And as well, we want to talk to Nicola Cocci, our third place finisher, as Peter has caught up with the Italian.
Nico, welcome to the Global SimRacing Channel commentary box. That was an extraordinary race for us to watch, with you and Yuka having an incredible battle. But tell us about your emotions from that particular race.
Yeah, hi guys. Battling with Yuka is always something incredible. It's not the first time we had a good fight like this one. I beat him on Phillip Island, and now it's his turn. I don't really care if I was ahead or behind, because it was so fun to battle the whole race. Of course, I think I could had better pace than him. He was running very trimmed down setup, so it was very hard to me to pass him. I tried everything I could, but the track working in his favor, and he never made a mistake. Not like me, because my major mistake, apart for the little punt that I gave him, of course, it was my qualifying lap that I'm not sure why, but I completely failed. And in this track, this some kind of mistake that you're gonna pay very, very hard. And I already knew that it was some kind of race like this one, but I was ready for doing everything it takes, but Yuka was too strong today.
It was certainly extraordinary to watch. And just a final question, Nico, you had some incredible oversteer moments there where the car, just tell us a little bit about the kind of how the car behaves. It doesn't look that easy to catch those moments when they happen. I mean, is there any warnings from the car when you know you're going to get a little bit of a snap oversteer moment like we saw so many on camera?
Well, yeah, it always depends about how you set up the car and how you set up even the wheel. And I'm using motion rig as well, so I have plenty of way of make the car warn me if something is going to be to be bad. But it is. I think this is like a very easy combo for this car and this track to pull out huge drifts with a relatively safely manner. But yeah, I think it's depend of the setting and of your driving style. You know, it's a lot of pieces that make the whole the whole one thing. And but yeah, it was funny. It was fun to do like that, but scary at the same time. And I think I had a little bit too much moments there, but I think that the track requires it, because it is a very strange track, let me tell you, and it's very hard to do very consistent lap, and sometimes you get huge oversteer, sometimes you get none. So by default I am pushing a lot, and if it's something happen, I will just like try to limit the damage with or counter steering, and that's it. So you cannot lift in most of the fast corner here, because you have to use ground effect. So it's you know, it's I think that the track requires it.
Well, it was certainly a whole load of fun for us to watch. I can't imagine how much fun it was in your motion rig. Nico, thanks for coming in to chat to us, and looking forward to speaking again very soon.
Thank you, guys. Can't wait to watch back the whole race. Bye-bye.
And up next, we have our second place finisher, the other end of that fight, Jukka Tolvanen, as we talked to him about what was probably the biggest excitement that we had throughout the race. Jukka, how nervous are you? Did you need a shower after that one?
Definitely I need, and my hands are still shaking, so that was nerve-wracking, I would say, living on the edge all the time.
How aware were you? Have you managed to go back and look at any of the side-by-side moments? Because from our perspective, there was times where even the wheels were interlocking. You were so close.
Yeah, I guess so. I must watch the replay again and see if I did anything stupid there. Hopefully not, but the biggest problem seemed to be the last right-hand corner, so I was somewhat inconsistent there, and Nicola was trying to overtake there multiple times. So I tried to keep the inside line there covered, and yeah, it worked. But once we had that little touch there, it was lucky that no one was really close behind us, so we didn't lose any positions there. But yeah, thrilling race.
Well, for what it's worth, I don't think we saw anything untoward. It looked like a completely fair and exciting battle from our perspective. I guess the good news for you is next round is at Watkins Glen, so straight line speed will certainly be valuable there. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, sure. Hopefully I can join. I'm not sure yet about that, but I'm definitely ready going if I have the possibility.
Well, we hope to see that Renault show up. Congratulations on a second place, and looking forward to seeing you more here in the Lotus 79 series.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for the broadcast.
As Jukka Tolvanen in second place here today, and that's going to close us out. We are ready to wrap up with a big thank you to the Lotus 79 series for bringing us back for another season of coverage, but also we want to thank the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts that we've listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. And thanks to the team today, Peter, Ryan, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. The link is in the description below, where, while you're down there, make sure and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you won't miss a moment here on GSRC. As we mentioned, the next race will be at Watkins Glen. That'll be Sunday, February 21st at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar, including the Absolute Beginners League, which is coming up. It'll be at Bathurst. That will be at 2 p.m. Eastern, so very shortly. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.